So I think it's about time we revisited the R.357. This is because of significant changes to a lot of the meta weapons in prior seasons, as well as adjustments and additions to the revolver, making it not only easier to use, but a lot more consistent. However, even though this weapon is more approachable now, it still requires above average mechanical skill to use optimally. In other words, aim. So in this video, we're going to expand on the original masterclass that I made, which by the way is linked in the right hand corner of the screen as well as in the description, and go over each change that brought this weapon from a niche pick to one of the most powerful weapons in the game if in the right hands, as well as an updated aim training routine in and out of the practice range that will help you delete any opponent within the R.357's effective ranges. But before we get into that, I want to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by Embark. This is absolutely wild for me because I never thought I'd be sponsored in a million years, especially to play a game that I love. So thank you to all of you guys for even giving me the chance to get noticed in the first place. And thank you to Embark again for this amazing opportunity. Other than that though, if you find this video informative, please smash that like button. And also subscribe for the most comprehensive and informative weapon guides in the finals. I left timestamps in the description to let you skip to the section you are most interested in. So let's jump into it. Since patch 1.5.5, the revolver has only been adjusted one more time, and that was in the beginning of Season 5 with a buff to its hipfire by decreasing bullet dispersion by 20%. However though, the dominant weapons in the meta have received major adjustments, whether it be from damage or weapon mechanics, bringing them back in line, which finally allowed the R.357 to shine. And with Season 4 came the introduction of attachments, allowing the revolver to finally attach a red dot sight. Now at first glance, this seemed like a huge improvement. However, with the sight came increased zoom when in ADS, which ironically made the weapon feel slightly worse than when using just the iron sights. The real change that made an impact was in Season 5 with the significant reduction to visual recoil, giving this weapon a lot more stability, which in turn gave it more consistency, allowing you to maintain sight of the target while tracking without feeling disorientated after every shot, thus making it easier to make micro adjustments whenever the opponent slightly strays away from your iron sight. On that note, I also want to mention that the high noon skin and variations of that particular skin is somewhat pay to lose, because the front sights are slightly larger than the default skin, which for a weapon that relies on extreme accuracy can be a death sentence. So please keep this in mind when you're using the revolver. As for the red dot sight, the reduction of visual recoil definitely improved the viability of this attachment from 10 meters and beyond. This is because the zoom is extremely disorientating from 5 to 10 meters. The only way the player can work around it is to move within 5 meters to get into optimal hipfire range, to ensure that the majority of your shots land even when firing at maximum RPM. However, even with this workaround, there are plenty of weapons in this meta that can decimate you before you're even able to close the gap. This can be detrimental when you consider the fact that the majority of engagements happen around the 10 meter range. The red dot sight's visual recoil, even though reduced, still adds unnecessary risk to an already risky weapon. Now when comparing it to the iron sights, you can easily acquire and maintain your target in between 5 to 10 meters. So at this time, it is in my opinion that the iron sights provides more consistency in comparison. Now I'm not going to go over the gadgets or the playstyle because it is exactly the same and has not changed since the last masterclass. If you want to check that out, I have it linked in the upper right hand corner of the screen as well as in the description of this video. Anyhow, without further ado, let's start the training routine. 3, 2, 1. For this first part of the routine, we're going to work on pacing and equip any spray that resembles a target, standing 15 meters away. Now the revolver fires at 140 RPM. With that in mind, we're going to shoot it at around 120 RPM. This pace doesn't allow the revolver to completely set, however, it will provide enough clarity to track or reacquire the target. So I want you to focus on strictly maintaining this pace throughout the entire routine, and only increasing it when you're within 5 meters. Making sure your bullets are in a tight cluster, leaving very little variation. Do this for 3 minutes. Now for the next part of this exercise, we're going to add a layer of movement by doing 1 second strays from left to right, maintaining the same pace, ensuring again that the bullet cluster is tight and leaves very little variation. Do this for another 3 minutes. Next, we are going to move on to centering and start with the light moving target on the roof of the building. For this target, I want you to remain in hipfire and within 5 meters. Move around the target while keeping it centered with model aiming and focus on the chest region. Do this for 3 minutes. We're going to remain here for the next exercise, keep the target centered within 5 meters, but this time I want you to eliminate the target only utilizing hip firing. The revolver received a 20% decrease to bullet dispersion while in hipfire. This is extremely noticeable when within 5 meters, being that it will allow you to shoot the revolver at maximum RPM and easily land your shots if the target is centered. If your reactive tracking is not as fast or want more consistency, I recommend that you fire this weapon slightly slower at around 130 RPM. It'll make very little difference to the TTK and you will land more shots. Spend 3 minutes eliminating the light target. Next, we're going to move to the back medium moving target in the firing range and perform the same task that we did with the light target. But this time go into ADS in 5-second intervals while maintaining centering and focus on the chest region at around 5 to 10 meters without firing. The reason for this is to ensure that you can clearly see and track the target after every shot. You never at any point want the front sight to completely cover your target. If you maintain centering at the lower chest level, it will provide you more forgiveness if you shoot faster than the desired pace. And if you do fire slightly higher than the desired RPM, you more than likely will still land your shots and it may even be a crit. Do this for 3 minutes. Now we are going to make our way to the front of the firing range and work on our target acquisition. This is almost as important as pacing. Because if the opponent is beyond 5 meters, it is critical that when you go down sights, your target is already centered, leaving very little to no travel distance. Essentially, when you ADS, you should be able to immediately fire and land your first bullet, because if you don't, you run the risk of wasting half your mag before landing your first shot, which in most cases is extremely punishing for the revolver. When you acquire the target through model aiming, I want you to follow this sequence. First, center your target in hip fire, aim down sights, and fire as soon as the animation is complete. Because if you don't, you run the risk of shooting in hip fire accuracy rather than the accuracy provided when aiming down sights. Shoot each target from front to back, always keeping in mind your next destination while performing the target acquisition sequence, and then smoothly transitioning to it. Do this nonstop for 3 minutes. For the next scenario, we will be simulating an opponent's strafing by using both light targets on the box in the firing range. Stand around 20 meters away from the target, remain aiming down sights, and strictly utilize pacing. Try to consistently hit them back to back until they are both eliminated. Do this non-stop for 3 minutes. Next up is an exercise that is quite important and will come in handy when pushing, and that is landing shots in midair, allowing you to create great opening damage as well as clean up any opponents trying to flee. If you didn't know, in the finals, you are able to land your shots in midair quite consistently. However, it is when you shoot your weapon that will really dictate how high your in-air accuracy will be. Because if you fire on the ascent, you are more than likely to miss your shots. But if you shoot your weapon on the descent, the chances of landing it increases dramatically. Of course, there is going to be bullet dispersion, but it'll be very minimal. And if you're facing a heavy, your shots will land 9 times out of 10 because of the size of their hitbox. I want you to use this pad and continuously shoot either the stationary medium target or the light target on the roof. Shoot 1 to 2 bullets at either target on the descent. And as usual, maintain pace. Do this for 3 minutes. Next, we are going to wrap things up in the practice range by doing the staple 360 dynamic and static tracking. For this exercise, we're going to stand between both medium moving targets using static tracking, aka mirroring on one, and dynamically tracking, aka counter strafing, with the other. Utilize the target acquisition sequence before engaging each target, and use model aiming to focus on the lower chest region and strictly stick to the pacing we used in the warm-up. Do this for 3 minutes. Now that we're done with the practice range, let's jump into quick cache or bank it for some active in-game aim training. In every engagement, I want you to remain calm and try your best not to tense up, while strictly focusing on performing the target acquisition sequence efficiently. If the opponent moves out of your field of view while in ADS, don't panic and calmly return to hipfire to perform the target acquisition sequence again to reacquire the target. Once you start engaging at anywhere from 5 meters and beyond, focus on maintaining your shot pace. And from 5 meters or less, utilize hip firing. Please put aspects of the game such as gadgets and specializations in the back burner and simplify your movements to strafing left or right using either mirroring or counter strafing. When your aim is where you want it to be, then you can slowly incorporate a layer of more advanced movement, then finally specializations and gadgets. Doing this prior to World Tour or Ranked can also be a fantastic warm-up. So that's about it for this training routine. I plan on updating the weapons that I made masterclasses for, especially the ones that received significant changes since those videos released. Next week I have another masterclass releasing for a brand new weapon, and let's just say this one in particular is coming in quite hot. So if this video helped you guys out in some way, shape, or form, please smash that like button. It's a small button for you, but it means the world to me. Also, if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe for the original and most comprehensive masterclass weapon guides in the finals. Peace and love, guys, and I'll see you in the arena.